Hello, and welcome back to the Void Century podcast. Ed and Adam here today to bring you chapter 984 of One Piece entitled My Bible. The cover story is of note. Pound has confronted Lola and Chiffon, and with tears in his eyes, he's telling them exactly who he is, and they are absolutely shook. And he's like, "Hey, it's me, your father!" And they're like, "Our father?" So, Ed, do you want to bring us into the chapter?
All right, so we start off in Onigashima with page one trying to wake up Ulti. Basically, they're both pretty much fine looking. Like they're just a little battered up, but they both look like they're pretty normal. Like they were maybe stunned for a little bit, but they're both pretty normal. He just says page one just says that Luffy's punch loosened his jaw. And there's a medical team treating Ulti, and she just throws them off and hugs page one and just saying, pray for me, it hurt little old me." Yamato's attack actually caused some decent damage to Ulti, and she calls Yamato's attack the Blunder Bagua. Well, actually, in the Japanese translation, it's supposed to be 8 gates, right? But they changed the 8 gates to 4 gates. So, yeah, just a little fun trivia. Ulti and Page One both get word that Luffy and Yamato stopped, and so they're starting to chase them and look for them because they want to stop them, of course. So next we cut out to Luffy and Yamato, and Luffy is already going to like a Kong gun, and Yamato's blocking it, shaking a little bit, but blocking it fairly easily. Luffy asks Yamato, all the while fighting, where he's taking him, and he's like, "I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to explain yourself." Yamato's like, "There's a lot of people around, like, can we go somewhere a little bit more private to talk?" And the Beast Pirates are around them, just like saying, "Aren't we supposed to like apprehend them?" Like, and other guys are like, "I mean, we can't even like get close to them. How can we stop them?" Yamato calls Luffy stubborn and says that this reminds me of a battle from the past. Luffy prepares to hit Yamato with a strong attack, saying he's had enough of him. Then there's a massive explosion, and the Beast Pirates lose sight of Luffy and Yamato. Next, we cut to the stage, the execution platform, and Orochi is telling the crowd who Momo is. He's a Kozuki, and he jumped to the future, and Toki was a witch with her magical abilities, allowing him to travel to the future. The Beast Pirates are just kind of like, are you serious right now? Like, there's tons of kids with top knots around here, and the Kozukis are long gone. They've been gone for like 20 years. Jinbe and Robin are also in the crowd, and they're just kind of like going along with the flow of what the crowd's yelling. And they're just kind of like worried and secretly talking to each other, trying to plan a way to save Momo. And there's a bunch of other of the samurai allies dressed up as Beast Pirates, and they're all worried about Momo. But slowly but surely, the samurai are infiltrating the castle.
And then we actually get plunged into the narrator bringing us to the polar tang. We see that the polar tang is currently caught up in a strong current and that they're only going to have a few minutes to disembark the submarine and get on the shores of Onigashima. Law calls to Beppo, Penguin, and Sonachi and asks them if they're ready. The Scabbards also reply that they're ready to begin the raid on Onigashima. We get a really cool double page spread of the polar tang and all the waters around Onigashima, and we see the polar tang pop up. Law uses his shambles attack and basically switches places with everybody on the submarine except for the pilot and a whole bunch of pebbles that are on the beach. So we see that the hatch gets closed, the polar tang goes back under the water and continues its mission. The Scabbards arrive on the shore with Law, Beppo, Penguin, and Sonachi, and they're all looking at Onigashima. They remark that there are two entrances into the castle, a high one and a low one. Law says that the high one is most likely the one that's going to lead them inside the castle. We see Neko Mamushi fall from the sky, and Marco's there too, and everybody has a little reunion. Marco said that he spotted a strange shadow at sea earlier on the way here. Kiku is absolutely overcome with emotion, and she's welling up with tears. Nekomamushi's there smiling, and we see that he's got this badass new gun arm. Izo's there with a scar on his face, pistols around his waist, and he's like, "Look at you, Kiku. You've become a great samurai." And Kiku starts crying, and it's a really good emotional moment. They call out for each other and they hug. Then we get transported to Onigashima Castle. Kaido is worried about where Big Mom is. And then we see that Bao Huang is like, oops, sorry, Kaido, forgot to tell you, Big Mom's currently on her way. And Kaido's like, okay, well, that's that. We're going to make an announcement during Momo's execution. And he begins to make an announcement. He's like, listen up. And we see everybody start spitting out their drinks. And they comment on how intimidating Kaido is. We see that he's up there in front of Orochi and Fukurokuju with all the headliners, or not the headliners, the all-stars. We see Queen, King, and Jack all there. And Kaido says, I'm going to liven up this execution, and I'm going to explain to you the new Onigashima project. Then we get transported to the attic inside Onigashima Castle, where Yamato is talking to Luffy. And Yamato begins to tell Luffy a story about how he told Kaido that one day he wanted to be just like Odin, and he got beat up by Kaido for it. And Luffy's like, why are you telling me this? And Yamato explains to Luffy that he was there during the Hour of Legends during Odin's execution 20 years ago and saw what a great samurai Odin was. He said that Kaido and Orochi killed Odin, but even more, Yamato was inspired by the great feats of chadliness of Odin. Yamato's like, I couldn't stop crying. I wanted to do whatever I could to find out more about Odin, so I went to Curry and I found a journal. And we see Yamato breaks out Odin's journal and shows it to Luffy and says there's a whole bunch of stuff about Odin's life and his feats and accomplishments and his adventures, but there's also very important information in here. And now that the Red Scabbards and the Kozuki line are all dead, I want to continue on Odin's dream and open up the borders of Wano. As Yamato says that, Yamato casts off the demon mask that Yamato is wearing, and we get revealed that Yamato is actually a woman, the new Bay of One Piece. And Luffy shook and he's like, hey, whoa, I thought you were a man. And Yamato's just like, well, Kozuki Odin was a man, and I want to be like Odin, so I'll be a man for the sake of being just like Odin. And Yamato goes on to say that you're really strong, and I can tell you're not even trying yet. You remind me of somebody I fought in the past, Ace. I want to fight on your side. We get the full reveal of Yamato there, and that's it. That's the chapter.
What a cool reveal, man. What a cool reveal.
Yeah, it's insane. We're on break next week too, but this chapter, I mean, even though it was primarily an information chapter, I am well aboard the hype train right now.
I just gotta say, Yamato looks great. Like, as a character model, the proportions, I mean, maybe it's because the traditional samurai outfit is a little more baggy, but out of female lead characters, well, we'll get back to that. But the proportions on the body don't look super exaggerated compared to someone like Nami or Nico Robin. So I kind of appreciate the character model. Obviously very pretty looking too, but that's just kind of typical Odin.
I think another reason why the fandom right now is all over Yamato for Waifu 2020 is because we know that she's really strong. She is very strong. So I think for the sake of this review and the manga going forward, we're going to refer to Yamato as he and his. Yamato obviously wants to be called a boy. That's the same reason why we refer to Kiko as her and she.
Yeah, it's really interesting that we have kind of multiple cases of, I guess, transgender characters in Wano. So that's just kind of interesting because, yeah, maybe it's something about Wano, or maybe it's something that Oda's trying to portray just because transgendered rights is kind of more of a thing these days. I'm not sure. Either way, we're gonna keep calling Yamato a he from now on. Unless otherwise stated, but it was clearly stated I want to be called a man.
Yeah, I think the reveal was absolutely great. I love Yamato's character design. I think Yamato is going to shape up to be a super cool character. Another thing I want to talk about is Luffy actually clashing with Yamato. So we know that Yamato is obviously very strong. Yamato's devil fruit powers are sealed, if Yamato even has any, with those sea stone cuffs. But I find it very interesting that when they clashed, if you notice the second time around when they clashed, Luffy had an effect around his fist that we haven't seen before. It was almost like a wispy, smoky kind of thing. It didn't look like normal armament hockey. It was kind of almost like smoke around his fist. And I checked back, and when Luffy punched the tree to exhibit his ryo'o technique, he had a very similar effect around his fist. So I think that Luffy currently in Onigashima is doing whatever he can to train ryo'o. So I think he's utilizing that whenever he fights now, kind of to train it up for the battle with Kaido.
Just for audience clarification, the tree punching scene that Adam is referencing to is around the time that Zoro got Enma and he cut the tree and the cliff at the same time with one swing. It's like that training montage, basically. One of the differences I've noticed, though, is in the tree punching scene, he does have that wispy, smoky effect around his fist, but in that one, he actually clearly has armament hockey around his fist, whereas in the scene with Yamato, he doesn't. It's just a normal looking fist with no hockey around it, but it does have the wisps, the similar wisps. So either he changed his technique and this is more powerful, or maybe he's holding back.
I think Luffy doesn't intend to kill Yamato. I think Luffy's kind of like feeling him out. I also feel that Luffy is kind of testing how he's going to integrate armament hockey with this new ryo'o technique. Because I guess he can use them both concurrently, but he doesn't have to. So there will be different advantages to different disadvantages to using them both at once.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. So moving forward, Yamato has Odin's journal, and first off, there was a really cute scene with Luffy being like, "Ooh, a journal," which is just so Luffy.
Luffy hates reading though. I think that's the best part. But if somebody's strong in it, then Luffy definitely wants to hear about it.
Yeah, because it's about a person that Luffy probably really respects, and he wants to know about Momo's father. So yeah, I'm sure he's very interested in hearing the stories. Reading it, probably not interested in reading it. But yeah, so there's going to be very important information. So what are some of the things that you think might be in the journal outside of, I mean, we already know what's in the journal within, we read part of Act 3 of the Wano arc, which is like that flashback sequence. But outside of that, what else do you think might the journal contain?
So there's a couple key things that we still need to know about in the story. And we kind of talked about something similarly when Odin and Toki were dying. I hypothesized the idea that they might leave like a poneglyph for Momo. I think it's even more interesting that the journal has survived the burning of Odin Castle. I think that construction of the poneglyphs and the story of the poneglyphs is definitely something that needs to be passed on to future Kozuki generations. If that knowledge is lost, then that means that the poneglyphs can never be created ever again. And I also hypothesize that the poneglyphs themselves are made with an infusion of armament hockey. So that's kind of why you can like hear the will of them, and you can hear them even if you can't read them. And they're also unbreakable.
Yeah, I kind of think that that's a really interesting theory, and I like it a lot. It makes a lot of sense because only certain people can hear them. I don't know if Nico Robin can, but she can definitely read them. But we know that at least Luffy can kind of like hear them and feel them. So yeah, continue. Sorry.
Well, okay, we can expand on that a little bit
Yeah.
because we know that hockey users, especially advanced observation hockey users, can sense hockey. They can sense the willpower. Like Ulti just exhibited it, Luffy just exhibited it. So it's very plain to see that sensing hockey and sensing the willpower is definitely something in the story. Here we also are going to learn about Kokuto and black blades and fusing your hockey into a blade to permanently turn it black. That's literally infusing it with your will. Hockey's your will. So if you're hockey sensitive, you can literally sense the will of an object. If a poneglyph is made from an infusion of massive amounts of hockey, you'll be able to feel the user's will behind that in infusing it in the first place. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, when you do hockey with your fist, let's say, it turns temporarily black. So it makes so much sense that if you use hockey on your weapon, over time, it becomes black. And that was already kind of explained a little bit earlier on in the Wano arc with, was it Hyogoro? Was that his name?
Yeah, Hyogoro was talking about the black blades. I'm sorry, I referred to them as Kokuto because that's what they call them in Japanese. So I feel like it's almost similar to, I'll be the one to throw up the Naruto reference this week, but ninja can communicate with their fists. They don't have to speak. Hockey is basically the same thing, but hockey is just a physical manifestation of your willpower.
Yeah, I think that's a really good parallel. Also, we know that, so going forward with some things that might be in Odin's journal, we know that Odin was married to Toki, who we believe was alive during the Void Century before she time skipped to the future to Odin's era. So Possibly she might have some ancient history that she shared with Odin that he thought was important enough to share in his journal and write it down.
It could literally be the history of the Void Century. It could even be snippets of Void Century history for new not road poneglyphs, for just new poneglyphs.
Yeah, totally.
I also think that maybe Odin described what it was like on Laugh-Tale. Not necessarily how to get there, but maybe there's a puzzle on the island that only, the true, carrier of Joy Boy's legacy can activate. So maybe that's kind of what Odin described. We also know that they got there too early. So there is some kind of gate there. Maybe Odin described what the gate is. Like what would stop them from actually finding the One Piece and achieving whatever the mission of Laugh-Tale actually is.
Yeah, what's really interesting is, at least from us, the reader's perspective, we saw in the journal that Laugh-Tale, the secret of One Piece, I should say. We're not exactly sure what it is. All we know is it made Roger and his entire crew laugh with tears in their eye.
We know that we know that the story of Joy Boy is definitely there because Roger read something related to Joy Boy, and that's why he was laughing, because he's like, "Oh, it's so funny. I wish I could have met you.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how we can't complete our mission."
Definitely. So one thing that I find really ironic is Kaido brings Momo in hopes that he might have some information of Laugh-Tale, and it turns out that his own son, Yamato, has all of that information that he's been seeking. Like, the person that he's looking for, literally his own son, not Momo, not one of the scabbards. Yamato has all of that information.
I'm not trying to pat myself on the back with Yamato being an Odin sympathizer or anything, but I think it's pretty much confirmed now that Yamato, once he meets Momo, if not saves Momo, they're going to be friends and definitely allies.
Oh, absolutely. They're totally going to be allies at this point. Like, Yamato absolutely worships Odin. So
I want to see, I think we're going to get to a moment where Yamato starts fanboying over Momo, and Momo can't take it, and maybe we know that Momo likes pretty women, so maybe Momo's so impressed with Yamato and wants to show her how strong he is, so he starts acting more like Odin to impress her.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Yamato will decide that with the actual heir of Odin alive and well and healthy, doesn't need to be a man anymore, and decide to get together with Momo or something like that. Who knows, but only time will tell.
I don't think they'll get together. I still ship Momo and Tama, but it is what it is. I think Momo will just be infatuated with her and try to impress her.
Yeah, very, very possible.
I mean, for all we know, it could be possible that Luffy shows up, in the main hall with Yamato again, and Momo sees her and he's like, "Oh my god," and then he does whatever he can to basically escape. Maybe he goes all dragon form. Hold on, did we actually see him chained up with sea stone cuffs? Do they actually know that Momo has the dragon fruit?
Let me go back and check. So he's definitely got chains around him. I'm not sure if they're sea stone cuffs or not, though.
Yeah, he's definitely got chains around him. But the interesting thing is, I feel like every time we see sea stone, at least used for chaining people up, I feel like it's always shackles.
Yeah, this one, I don't see any shackles. I just see chains wrapped around his wrists and ankles, basically. So, yeah, I don't think that it's sea stone necessarily. He might be able to change into a dragon, and the transformation might remove the chains just because he loses his arms and legs, basically, because he's kind of like a snake dragon. I mean, I know that they have small arms and legs, but maybe if he grows, they could bust open the chain, something like that.
Yeah, it would be perfect if somebody causes a commotion again. I don't know, maybe all the infiltrated samurai that are kind of just watching the execution go on right now.
And also, isn't Momo's dragon pink?
Yeah, Momo's got a little pink dragon that his clouds are yellow, though, I think.
It would be a nice contrast to Kaido's green dragon.
Kaido's blue.
Oh, blue dragon.
You're thinking DBZ, bro.
Yeah, I'm thinking DBZ.
Shenron's not here, man. All right, so I definitely think the only other thing that I think is really in the journal is maybe a history of the line of the Kozukis. Definitely the family history that's been passed on from generation to generation.
Oh yeah, totally.
Another interesting thing that I love about Yamato is she's like, "Oh yeah, Odin was super cool. So I saw him and now I want to be just like him."
Yeah, I also think that based on how young Yamato looks, very, very plausible that Yamato and Momo were born, very similar ages because you'd have to be old enough to actually recognize what's going on. And if Yamato was young when that happened, it would be at a very impressionable point in his life. So, yeah, I think that it's very, very likely that they might have even been born the same year.
I find it very interesting that Yamato turned out to be more like Odin than Odin's own son.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so Orochi and Kaido have no idea that this journal even exists.
Yeah, exactly. So if they like find out about this journal, like first thing that going to want to do is go straight to Laftel because he'll know exactly how to get there, all the different tricks. He'll become Pirate King, and we know that that is his ambition, that he wants to be Pirate King. We don't know exactly why or what for, but that is his ambition. I also kind of wanted to bring back the story of Yamato in Japanese folklore. So I just kind of wanted to bring that back a little bit. I mentioned it in an episode before, but it's kind of like interesting because in that story, there was one particular tale where Yamato was dressed as a serving girl during a big drinking party to defeat his enemies. And in this case, in One Piece, they kind of flip the genders and it's a girl dressed as a man stopping a drinking party. So I just kind of thought that that was like a little fun homage to a Japanese folklore.
Yeah, I love Odin, or I love Oda. He just draws inspiration from like everything and always just subtly lays it in.
I love Odin and Oda as well.
Hey man, anything's better than what was it? Marshall or no, Edward D. Teach?
All right, so moving on, we saw Marco Phoenix, and it's always cool to see him. And apparently, he spotted a strange shadow at the sea. Who do you think it could be? What do you think it could be?
I mean, it could really be anything at this point. I would like to think that allies. I would like to think that maybe it's members from the Grand Fleet. And I don't think Marco really knows about the Grand Fleet too much, so maybe he'll kind of like consult them and try to carry over their ships and stuff once he sees that they're allies.
Yeah, totally. Like, it would be a welcome surprise. Another possibility would be Perospero, just because he is the one who stopped them, the Big Mom pirates, from going up the waterfall. So maybe he was just keeping his eye out on that general area to make sure that nothing fishy was going on, and he could have noticed Perospero coming up alone. That's another possibility.
Yeah, but is Perospero really that close to Onigashima right now?
I'm not sure. Like, it was within visible distance to him, but I'm not sure how close it would be now.
Yeah, I don't think it could be really Perospero or the Big Mom Pirates because the way the timeline fits is like he kicks them off and then beelines towards Onigashima. So unless they can teleport, he wouldn't pass them. He'd be ahead of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, totally, totally.
Huh, so that's very interesting. I would obviously I'd love it to be another ally, but we'll see. So Jinbe and Robin, I actually love that scene where they're witnessing the execution. I think it's really just Oda like for him to throw in the funny moments with Robin, especially during an execution. And I love Jinbei's chemistry and he's just sitting there and he's like I'm really worried, Robin. What do we do? And she's like, just hang in there. Claw his eyes out. Bring that kid down to me here and I'll stab him in the stomach. And we're like, whoa, Robin, calm down.
I like how Jinbei referred to Robin as boss. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because she has seniority in the crew, but it's just really like a cute interaction between the two of them.
I think that's exactly what it is. I love Jinbei's outfit too. I like kind of how the little circlet on his chest kind of outlines his sun pirate symbol.
Oh yeah, totally. It does.
So since we're back to Jinbei and Robin, we know that the mysterious stranger that was in the bushes can also now be in the castle.
Yeah.
So we have no idea how that's going to work out either. Any thoughts to who that might be?
Well, so early on, people were speculating Yamato, but I don't think it's Yamato anymore just because Yamato's with Luffy, and it would have been a lot of distance to cover to basically follow Luffy instead of the other people that it alluded. Like, I believe they were about, like the person was following Robin and Jinbei, right?
Yeah,
So they're probably, yeah, that person is then probably still around, and we just don't know who it is. But it might just be another secret ally. That's what I'm hoping for.
you know who I think it could be, because I have a nice little feeling that the Mane Mane no Mi and the Bari Bari no Mi are going to be at Wano for this current battle. So I'd love to see Mr. 2, Bon Clay.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely be interesting. I'm not sure if it would happen. It would be really way out of left field, but that being said, there is that link to the devil fruit. So,
It could be Barto as well. I mean, he could just be hiding in the bushes because he's so enamored with Robin and Jinbe that he doesn't want them to notice him while he's, geeking out.
yeah, I have a feeling that it's gonna be someone like high up in the food chain in terms of power level. So probably stronger than Barto or Boncle, and maybe I mean it could be someone in CP0, someone in the Marines, someone in the Revolutionary Army,
You're totally
all of
right.
those.
Could be a member of Sword. Speaking of Sword, one of the interesting things I'd like to point out too is Kobe was sent to Amazon Lily, right? I totally forgot this, but we have a cover story in which Boa paints like the whole front of the harbor on the island with Luffy's wanted poster. So Kobe, upon approaching Amazon Lily, would definitely know that Boa is an ally with Luffy. So
Yeah, and Kobe also respects Luffy. Like, obviously, he can't condone the actions of a pirate, but that being said, he also knows that Luffy's one of the good ones, and he kind of only breaks the rules when he believes them to be unjust. So, yeah, I mean, I think that Kobe is probably a Luffy ally as well.
we could see Kobe and Boa arrive on Wano. My girlfriend was actually telling me that there's a current 2 episode filler in Wano right now where Boa actually arrives on Wano and sees Luffy.
Oh, interesting. Then yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible. Like it's physically possible. I don't know. I take filler with a grain of salt, so I don't know if that bodes well or if it makes it even more unlikely that Boa will come, at least in canon story.
No, I totally agree with you, but if Boa can be there at least in the filler, then that means Kobe could be there in the canon.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. I definitely agree with that. All right, so another thing that is interesting is that at the execution platform area, all the beast pirates, they're just kind of like not caring whatsoever about the execution. Like they're just like it's more fun for them because it's more of like a sport to watch someone get executed, but they don't really care who it is. They're just like this is a little kid. Like we really don't care about the kid. There's no way that he's actually a Kazuki because they were killed off 20 years ago. So, I mean, yeah, sure, we'll enjoy watching you guys kill this little helpless, defenseless kid, but we aren't as excited about it as you guys are, obviously.
I think that goes into the new Onigashima project as well. So we know that Kaido has an announcement about the new Onigashima project. I think it could go either two ways. Either Kaido is going to double down and take over Wano and oust Orochi, or he's just going to leave Wano altogether and leave like a small reinforcement to take care of Orochi's matters while he goes out and finds the One Piece.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested as to what that project could be. Like we're looking, like if I'm looking at the panel right now where Kaido is announcing the new Onigashima project, and I can see Orochi's face, and he kind of looks upset, and also he kind of looks like he's not sure as to what Kaido's about to announce. So I'm getting the vibe right now that this is not something that Kaido discussed with Orochi. So Orochi's kind of like, "What are you talking about, Kaido? We didn't discuss this. Are you gonna pull something on me right now?" Like that's kind of like the vibe I get looking at this panel.
I think so too, and it's very interesting to note Fukurokuju's emotion on his face as well. He has the exact same look as Orochi does. So even the top intel of Wano for Orochi, the Shogun, has no idea what's going on with Kaido right now. So I think that Kaido might announce that he's going to, well, that they allied with Big Mom, so they're both going to leave to find the One Piece, maybe. It could go either way. Either he could double down and take over Wano, or he could leave, or there just could be something else.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how that's going to progress. I am not sure when Act 3 is going to end, but it seems like it's really close, like within the next 5 chapters, close.
We've been saying that for the past 5 chapters because Oda's just throwing in shamisen every time something you need to focus on happens. And we're like, dude, we get it, but come on. I mean, I don't want the act to end if Oda doesn't want it to end, but I just don't like being teased with those shamisens.
More shamisen, more suspense. So I understand why he's doing it. It's really good narration on Oda's part as well.
It really is. I feel like the pacing and everything's like jumping around real seamlessly. So we get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but we all know really what's going on and we're just stoked.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So moving forward, I want to talk about Ulti and Page One. They're definitely stronger than we initially thought. Like, last chapter, we thought that they both basically got one-shotted, and this chapter, we see that, you know what, maybe they weren't one-shotted, and it was more akin to like how Apu hit Luffy earlier on, and Luffy looked like he was getting hurt pretty bad, but he just kind of bounced right back. It's like the same situation as that, it seems like. So they're both kind of like, they're just dazed. Ulti looks a little bit more damaged than Page One, but yeah, Page One didn't even get phased by, well, no, sorry. Page One got phased by Luffy's Kong gun, but not much more than that.
So follow me here. I think that I just noticed that Page One has a carnivorous zone. The Spinosaurus is a carnivore, and Ulti with her, I'm not even going to attempt to say the name of it because I don't have it in front of me, but her headbutting dinosaur is a herbivore. So she doesn't have that extra animalistic rage that Page One can feed off of. So I think it's possible that if Ulti gets taken out, Page One could fly into like a blind rage and be even stronger than Ulti.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. I mean, like honestly, because they're siblings, they're probably pretty similar in battle strength. Just even looking at how they took damage, the move that Yamato used was probably more powerful than the Kong gun. But also Yamato knew exactly what Ulti's limits are, being with the Beast Pirates his entire life. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and Yamato also caught Ulti off guard too. But Page
yeah,
One,
that too.
he saw it, he took it on the chin, like he prepared for it. And he was fine. He wasn't knocked out, he was knocked down.
Yeah, he was just stunned for a bit.
I think they're two very interesting characters. I can't wait to actually see them get a real fight. But do you think that they're going to fight Luffy again? I don't really think so. I think that Zoro's going to step in or Sanji's going to get his rematch with Page One.
I really want the Sanji Page One rematch. Like, I want them both trying their hardest and fighting each other. I think that would be a really good fight.
I just want to see that Soba mask transformation again. Oda, please give
Yeah.
it to us. All right, so Law can teleport people with his shambles. Like, I think maybe he's expanded the distance of his room because it seems like a really incredible distance to teleport all those people so quickly.
Yeah, so he teleported 7 people. Have we ever seen him teleport people in the past?
Yes, we've seen him have him switch places with rocks and stuff at Dressrosa to
Gotcha.
avoid attacks and surprise people and stuff.
Yeah, so his room must have grown pretty significantly because, yeah, that was really cool scene. They're like, we only have one shot at doing this, like, we're barely close enough, and bam, they're just gone. And the rest of Law's crew is actually still in the Polar Tanks, so it looks like they will not be joining in on the fights, so no Beppo or other members of Law's crew joining in on the fights most likely. But yeah, it was really cool seeing the Scabbards teleport with Law and get reunited with Marco and Izo.
I think it was pretty awesome that they're like, what do they call him? They're like, Lord Law, your technique is so wonderful. What great sorcery.
Yeah, like they all appreciate it. They appreciate Law, and Law hates hearing the praise too. He's just like, you guys are so annoying.
He's like the
please
opposite
stop.
of Chopper. Chopper's like, stop, as he's sitting there like, oh my god, thank you so much. Law's like, get off my ship.
Yeah, Law just hates it, whereas Chopper is just like basking in it. Great.
Izo and Kiku being reunited had to have been like one of the cutest things we've seen in a while. Izo's also looking pretty rough now.
Yeah, Izo has a scar and looks badass with the scar, may I add. So I'm really happy with that change. It shows growth. Izo's gonna be really powerful. Haven't seen a scabbard on Izo, so maybe he's gonna continue to use guns. I'm not sure. But either way, he's gonna be a force to reckon with.
I would like to see Izo for the time being. Like, we haven't seen him use a sword since he left Wano. I'd like to see him come back and use Ame no Habikiri and give it to Momo.
Yeah, that's a good point. He doesn't have a sword yet. So it would be pretty fitting for him to get a nice sword like that, a named sword, use it in homage to his master Odin, who he basically abandoned. Like in his mind, he probably feels so guilty. Like imagine how guilty Marco feels not being there for Odin during his execution. Like Izo would feel like 10 times more guilt being part of the Scabbards at one point.
I mean, I feel like it just further confirms that even though there are Whitebeard pirates that visited Wano after Odin returned, they still had no idea what was going on. Had they have known, they would have, maybe not Whitebeard himself, but definitely Whitebeard's top commanders that knew Odin personally would have done something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even in the last chapter, we know that Marco said that he had no idea that things in Wano were that bad. Like he just had no idea. There's just not much information traveling in and out of Wano, so you can't really fault Marco or any of the Whitebeard crew for not knowing. That being said, they might fault themselves and feel guilty themselves because, like, if we want to relate it to Luffy's crew, if you get what's the girl from the Sand Kingdom, Nefertiti?
Oh, Vivi?
Yeah, so if something happened to Vivi and the Straw Hats weren't there for her, like they would feel tremendous guilt because they consider her Nakama. They consider her part of the crew, even though she's not actively pirating with them. She's still an important member and an important person to them, and they want to give her their full support.
That's the whole reason why they're even in Wano in the first place, is because they're friends with Momo and Kinemon, and they're going to do whatever they can to liberate the country because Momo can't do it alone.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I love it. Go on.
Moving forward, Yamato has fought Ace, and that's really interesting. So Ace has met both Otama and Yamato now. Who else has Ace met? And yeah, what kind of things did Ace maybe learn from Yamato and vice versa?
We've got no idea. I think Ace pretty much met and clashed with Yamato and was under the assumption that Yamato was Odin. So when Ace reported back to the Whitebeard pirates, he said, "Oh yeah, I met Odin," not thinking anything of it. I met a very strong swordsman on Wano that fit the description of Kozuki Odin. Like, he's still alive, he's doing well, and probably even said things that Odin would say based on Yamato's devotion to Odin's legacy.
Yeah, so Yamato has Odin's journal, knows things that only Odin should know. So and also Yamato is dressed like Odin. There's definitely a possibility that Yamato was pretending to be Odin in front of Ace. So I really like this theory that Ace was the one who checked up on Wano a few years back and determined that, you know what, things aren't necessarily the best in Wano, but at least like Odin is safe and we don't really have to come in and take any sort of action here. Like Odin's got it locked down.
Here's one thing I'd like to know. Did Yamato find Odin's journal before or after Yamato was chained up? I'd like to imagine that Yamato, upon seeing Odin be executed, literally stated to Kaido, "I want to be just like Odin Kozuki."
Yeah, my guess is that that became Yamato's dream from childhood. So probably told that to Kaido multiple times throughout growing up and throughout being an adult. Like just continue to tell his dad, like, I want to be Odin. Like Odin is the coolest person ever. Like, why'd you kill him? He's my idol.
And I feel like Kaido regrets that too. I feel like Kaido regrets killing Odin, especially the way that he defeated him.
Yeah, with a gun, like after Odin just survived so long. Like, yeah, I don't know.
That was the rift. That shot to Odin's head was the rift that started between father and son.
Going back to your question though, I believe like that Yamato found the journal early, like shortly after Odin passed away. Yamato probably found it, like within a year or two is my guess, like maybe less than a year even. But I want to say that really shaped Yamato as a person. Like how else can you grow up emulating Odin like that and not exactly knowing what Odin's values and principles were. I think that in order to be the person Yamato is today, he had to have been influenced early in life and known exactly what Odin's morals were early so that he could become a true successor to Lord Odin.
I totally agree with you. I just want to know, when Yamato was apprehended and confined, was the journal still on him? Like, how would the Beast Pirates not know that there was Odin's journal if they captured the person that possessed it?
My guess is that Yamato has a hiding spot for the journal and likely doesn't carry it around with him at all times. But knowing that Luffy is on the island, wanted to bring the journal just as proof that he truly is an ally to Luffy and also to the Scabbards or what. I mean, Yamato believes that the Scabbards are all dead, I think. But that being said, he knows that Luffy is kind of like the person who will come and change Wano to be back to its glory days and wants to prove that using the book. So that's the only reason that he would even risk bringing the book with him.
You know how I think he knows that?
How?
Because I believe that Charlie and Toki's prophecies are both written in the book. And they both outline the kind of person that Luffy is because he inherited Joy Boy's will.
I wonder if they even said that it would be a man with a straw hat. Because that would be kind of in line with what we saw. Remember what we saw in Mary Joie with like the very lowest level, there's a giant straw hat, which everyone's thinking it might be Joy Boy's straw hat. But either way, there's a big significance to the straw hat in this story as well, outside of it just being Luffy's symbol.
Yeah, the Straw Hat is a representation of the ancient kingdom, the kingdom of the D's. I totally agree with that. And I think that giant Straw Hat under Mary Joie actually belonged to a giant that was a D, maybe an ancestor of Jaguar D Salt.
Or maybe Joy Boy was a giant.
It very well could be possible. I find it very interesting. There's been lots of prophecies, and Toki's from the Void Century, and we know that the Kingdom of the D and the Ancient Kingdom was affiliated with Wano in some way, and the only place that that information could be recorded is in poneglyphs on Wano or in the journal of the man who knows how to construct the poneglyph. That's all I'm saying. But
yeah, no, I think that poneglyphs are here to stay. I like your theory about poneglyphs being in the journal and how to create them. I think that even if they're not, one way or another, someone's going to discover how to do it. Even if it's someone like Vegapunk or something like that. Like someone will discover how to make poneglyphs down the line, even if it's not in the journal. That being said, I think the journal would be a great way to reveal how to do it because it wouldn't feel cheap. Like it would be a good way to do it within the story.
yeah, well, I believe in order to make things permanently black, you have to utilize Armament Hockey 2.0. You got to utilize the ryo'o to actually pour your hockey into it so it stays in there and kind of overwhelms an object. And the only place that we've seen that actually knows how to do that technique is Wano. And that's a technique that was actually created by Ryuma himself.
You know how Kaido has a kanabo? Is that how you say it? Looking at his kanabo, it's completely black. So I'm wondering if actually Kaido knows that technique to infuse his weapon with hockey, and instead of a black sword, because he uses a kanabo, it's a black kanabo. What do you think about that?
I would totally 100% wholeheartedly agree with you. And I also believe that Kaido's club, his kanabo, is a named blade as well.
Oh, that's an interesting twist. It's not really a blade, but it could still be a named weapon. Like I don't see like it has spikes on it, but it's not really a blade.
I mean, it would still have to be forged by like a master smith. It might not necessarily be a Meito grade sword, but I think it would have to be of the same quality.
Yeah, I agree with that. If it wants to hold that much ryo'o in it, it would need to be expertly forged. I agree.
You know what I would like to... Oh, you know what else is really interesting too? That we totally forgot to talk about? Yamato is a human, not a giant Oni demon.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still curious as to who Yamato's mother is. I'm not sure if this is one of those things where the mother isn't important in this case. But either way, I'm still kind of intrigued because, yeah, Yamato's human. Yamato doesn't really look that much like Kaido, to be completely frank, and has light colored hair, so might be blonde. not the same color as Kaido. Might be pink as well because it's a light colored hair. So maybe Big Mom's daughter or son, child, maybe not. I think that's a stretch, but yeah, what do you think?
I mean, it's possible. I don't know how I feel about the idea of Big Mom being Yamato's mother. However, we do know that Kaido owes Big Mom a favor. Maybe the favor that Kaido owes to Big Mom is the fact that Yamato is the only child that Big Mom never actually stole from the husband. Or the
Yeah,
father,
maybe.
rather. So,
That is possible. Yeah, that's very possible. That would be something that Big Mom would be not wanting to part with. So yeah, I could see that.
I find it super interesting. However, I'm still very leery that Kaido is actually a human because Big Mom, who's one of the only characters we know that knows Kaido the most, still referred to Kaido as that thing.
Yeah, I don't know if he's human. I mean, if Yamato's not human, then Yamato's at least half like Oni or something. I still like to think that Kaido is an Oni just because they're an Onigashima and the story of Momotaro has Onis in it. And in the story of Momotaro, he goes to Onigashima to stop this demon lord and he ends up defeating the demon and kind of taking over Onigashima and stealing all the treasure. So that's kind of like the story. And I mean, Kaido obviously is kind of a demon. Like even if he's not like literally a demon, like he can be referred to as a demon with like how he looks and how powerful he is and all that.
Yeah, he's like a representation of a demon, but we still don't know. I feel like maybe Yamato's mother is a human, so maybe like the if Kaido is a demon, then maybe like the demon side's kind of latent, and maybe Yamato will have like a demon transformation. Hot demon
Ooh.
girls in your area.
But also, it would be sick if Yamato had like an Oni fruit. Like Yamato's actually human that has the Oni no Mi, something like that. That would be so cool. Because it would just be really fitting for Onigashima. Like we're in Onigashima and we haven't seen a single demon yet, unless like King's race is a demon race or Kaido's race is a demon race. We haven't seen a demon yet, so like we need to see a demon. Like I'm wanting my demon, man.
Dear Oda, please include more demons. Signed, The Void Century Podcast. I thought this chapter was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, there was so much information and so much hype. It's amazing that it was only like 19 panels and we'll be on break next week.
Yeah, but even though One Piece is on break next week, the Void Century podcast will not be. So stay tuned for the next episode, everyone.
We'll be back after these brief messages. Hi, do you like podcasts about One Piece and One Piece stuff? Then check out the Void Century Podcast on YouTube and Spotify and Instagram and practically any place that you listen to podcasts. You can also catch us on Twitter and on Instagram at the Void Century PC. And if you want to connect with us and get to know us a little bit more, you can always email us at thevoidcenturypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to us and thanks for sailing with us.
Bye.
Bye.